At this time, we'll take roll. Adam Lane,
Present.
Susan Jones,
Present.
Tracy Miller,
Present.
Dr. Joyce Roberts,
Present.
Dorothy Rohde Collins,
Present.
Natalie Vowell,
Present.
Donna Jones.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Okay, we will say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the So the first item on our agenda is public comments. We have several tonight. The first one is Mr. Bill Monroe from Harriet Tubman. Press the
Good evening. And the first thing I'd like to do is congratulate the elected board for the return of the stewardship and the governance of the St. Louis Public Schools. Take that off my time now, 'cause but congratulations. And I'm here, some of you know that I'd asked to be on the agenda for this meeting, and I was told that I was too late, and I hope that I can be on the next agenda for the school board meeting. And the reason that I am here is to help save Beaumont. I'm on a mission to stop the closure of any more high schools in this community. And Beaumont is the school, and I'm asking this elected board to consider a 23-page document that the superintendent of the St. Louis Public Schools has in his possession, which is a contract and agreement between Harriet Tubman Incorporated, of which I am CEO of this non-for-profit, and a collaboration with the St. Louis Public Schools to take Beaumont and turn it into a career center, a high school and career center, and a place that we can address the homeless situation that has our streets plagued and our communities in crisis. And I want to say to the chief of police, and I hope it gets the message to him, that St. Louis, we don't need the National Guard. We don't need police in our community. We need education, jobs, and skill training, and community-based education solution. That's what we need in this city. And I hope that I have the help of the elected board in making this thing possible. And it's a situation that will cure, I believe it's part of a cure for the crisis that has engulfed our community. We need education, skills, and job training. And I have right here, just to give you an idea, Harriet Tubman, myself, David Jackson, have been out to South Tech. This is South Tech. And we're going to bring technical curriculum-based training to this community. We're going to teach police, fire, and paramedics as a part of a curriculum base. They say they can't find firemen. They say they can't find policemen. Well, we're going to train them. We're going to, in this collaboration at Beaumont under Harriet Tubman, we're going to train policemen, firemen, paramedic, construction engineers, and those jobs that this community needs to be a vital part of the world, to teach our children how to go about a good living and stay out of trouble. So we ask your support, and we ask the community to back us. When you see Harriet Tubman, we want to save Beaumont. We don't want Beaumont to turn into what down the street? What is that Cumberland High School down the street? Central, or was that Central? We don't want that to happen. We got the power to make it right, and you got the knowledge. And for those of you that don't know, I once served on this board. I need your help. Thank you. And I'm going to stop, all right? I got more to say,
Thank
but I'll
you.
stop.
Thank you. The next name is David Jackson.
Good evening to the Board of Education, which I've been calling that ever since we lost governors, and Dr. Adams. I stand tonight in support of the Harriet Tubman High School concept. And once the proposal is presented to you as the governing board, I want you to consider the partnerships that are involved with Harriet Tubman. We are partnering with 4 different school districts as well as County Tech. That's very, very important because we don't want to see what happened at Beaumont, which was offering a lot of skills. Unfortunately, they didn't get the kids. Well, we want to look at not only the city of St. Louis, but we're looking throughout the region to attract any child who wants to earn a skill-level career. You know, this is where we're going to do it. So the partnerships is very important, and I want you to concentrate on that when you see the proposal. And I also want you to look at what we're offering the students. One of the things that are involved with our proposal that we submitted is also housing about 225 homeless students. As you know, there are over 5,000 homeless kids in the St. Louis Public Schools as we speak. We know that 225 is only a drop in the bucket, but we thought we had to do something to address that need. And part of our proposal include a homeless program with housing for those students. We also looked at Beaumont simply because where Beaumont is located. That's North St. Louis. It's on a central corridor. It is very important to North St. Louis that Beaumont remains a icon as it is. We've talked to the alumni at Beaumont and at Sumner, and they're both supporting us on our efforts. Beaumont High School, as I said, is a community asset that has to remain. And we have an opportunity now to create something unique in the city of St. Louis, something that they've done twice in St. Louis County. And we're not trying to invent the wheel. We are joining partnerships with those other entities. And so please, I implore you that once it's presented to you to look at the partnerships that are involved and what we're offering the students. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert York?
Good evening. Thanks for this opportunity to speak with you tonight. My name is Robert York, of course, and I'm a financial professional with New York Life here in the St. Louis area. And the reason that I'm here is because New York Life has tens of thousands of dollars in grant money, numerous resources, and countless volunteer hours and support that it would like to make available to the St. Louis School District. If you're not familiar with New York Life is one of the biggest and oldest life insurance companies, having more than 170 years in existence and the highest financial strength rating possible. And it would just like to step in and be more community-oriented, community-based, and extend this support to this school district. To be a recipient of this grant money, these resources requires no contractual obligation to the school district. It requires no money out of pocket. It simply requires just establishing that relationship with New York Life and just saying that, yes, St. Louis School District would like to be partakers of these available grant monies and resources. And as an outcome of my appearing here today, I would just hope that I would be able to get the name and contact information of a person that I would be able to follow up with and go further into the possibility of establishing this relationship and extending this support.
Thank you. Charles Murphy?
Good evening to all. In particular, congratulations to the elected board. And in the words of the many students over the years who supported and fought for democracy, it's all about democracy It's all about democracy. It's all about democracy. Please do not be mocking me. It's all about democracy. That was a song my students wrote in 2007. I'm here on their behalf because y'all are back. It's been a hell of a fight. There's going to be some more fighting. But I just want to say that we're ready. Quickly, beginning of the summer, I was able to attend a workforce development experience for teachers and counselors, sponsored by the Missouri Chamber of Commerce and also by DESE, also by some people that was dealing with STEM. But I found out something. There are some basic skills, 3 of them, that everybody needs to work: teamwork, critical thinking, and communication. And I'm listening to that, and I said, wait a minute, that sounds like the skills you need to be a good citizen. And the question is, what's preventing people, in particular our students, from being good citizens, from having these 3 critical skills? Trauma, mental health issues. We're not addressing it, but the country is full of it. And the key thing now, employers are ready and promising to pay for education or whatever it takes, but if you got those 3 basic skills, you can come on in the door. So I'm committed to that. I'm in a rebirth. I'm only 74 years young, and I'm learning some new tricks that will help students. So welcome back, and thank you very much. And glad to see a room full of folks. Don't get scarce. Don't get scared. Just be here and help us save these young people. Thank you.
Thank you. Byron Clemens?
I'm the co-chair of the COPE committee for AFT St. Louis Local 420. I want to just say welcome back to the elected board. And I want to congratulate Dr. Adams, who I've heard him clearly say the governance isn't really important to him. He's going to do his job. I hope we can all work on this together. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan Turk?
Good evening. First, I'd like to say that it is absolutely wonderful to see the elected board back in front of this room governing this district. It's been a long 12 years in the desert without you. However, in the transition that led to your being here tonight, I noticed that you were given some advice by people who are not members of an elected board. You were given advice by DESE employees, by State Board of Education members, and by SAB members, all of whom are appointed to their jobs. There's a difference between them and you. You are elected officials. You have constituents. You've got about 100,000 bosses in this city who are the registered voters who make a decision every 4 years about whether or not you're going to keep your jobs. During your training, you were told to ignore them. You were told to take your counsel from each other and not really pay attention to what anybody who's not sitting on this board thinks or what their ambitions are or what their demands are. That was not very good advice. Somebody who's on an appointed board like the SAB or the state board can operate that way. But you guys, you've got to be politicians. You've got to be aware that you have constituents and they have expectations of you. And if you don't meet their expectations, they're not going to let you continue in these jobs. It is a democracy. You've got to do what's best for our kids and for the people who are most important to them during their day in school, their teachers. And if you think we're not paying attention, think again. Because the board does change. There are people sitting in this audience tonight who used to sit on the board who are no longer on it. And that's because people do pay attention. And they see you young faces running for the board, and it gives them hope for the future. And some of you have been elected for that reason recently. So please keep in mind, there are going to be people who are both powerless and powerful trying to get your ears. They are going to ask you for, give you advice, they're going to ask you for assistance, and sometimes they're going to make demands. You've got to be strong, you've got to be judicious, and you've got to consider what they're telling you, whether or not to take their advice, help them, or undertake their demands. But you're going to have to pay attention to them. You're elected officials. The future is yours. Good luck.
Thank you. Wally Amusa.
Good evening. My name is Wale Amusa, and I have a very long history with the St. Louis Public Schools. I used to be a business agent for the Teachers Union for many years, sat across the table and negotiated contracts for teachers and other employees in this district. I was a lobbyist for the St. Louis Public Schools for 5 years in Jefferson City, and fought for many years to improve educational services in the St. Louis Public Schools. I also had all of my children go through St. Louis Public Schools. And I currently have a grandchild that's going through a high school in St. Louis here. I will not bore you with the tragic situation involving my grandchild, but I have to say that we must not tolerate racism in the St. Louis Public Schools. I have a principal in this school district that has refused to meet with me and my son when my grandchild was injured in the St. Louis Public Schools. And I don't think it's necessary for me to even bring it here and talk about it, other than to say that a callous disregard and disrespect of parents in this school district must never be tolerated. Okay? I tried to meet with this principal. I called the superintendent and Dr. Adams. You've been very busy. You directed me to one of your assistants, and I want to tell you here today, your assistant did not do his job. Okay? And I'm here to say today that what happened at that school and the way the principal treated parents is the main reason why parent engagement in this school district is woeful, is bad, and we must put a stop to it. I hope that sometime before the school starts, this principal will have the common sense to meet with parents and grandparents and to meet with me, what she refused to do before my child goes back to that school. I don't think I need to put a picket sign in front of Northwest, not Northwest, in front of, what is that school on McCree? Gateway. I don't think I need to even come here and talk about issues just to get a principal to sit down with a parent and grandparent of a child in this school district. And if I have to come back every meeting until that principal sits down and talks and even apologizes, I will do it every time. That is the most important thing on my heart, because what happened to my child, my grandchild, will happen to any other child. On top of that, I want to say this. School board members, we love you very much. We were right by your side for those 12 long years when we tried to restore local control to the St. Louis Public Schools. But you have a challenge, and that challenge is we must never go back to where we were 12 years ago when our school district was not accredited. Okay? I also want to thank Dr. Adams for being persistent enough and staying in the district long enough to help us navigate through accreditation. We must always thank those who do something positive for our community. But school board members, congratulations. We love you very much. You need to remember that you are not alone. You have a constituency of parents in this community. I have not met a parent yet that doesn't want the best for their child. Not yet. The question is, are we organized? Are we mobilized to effectively deliver excellence for children in this school district? It takes unity, it takes organization, and a strong commitment to excellence. We can do it if we make up our minds that our children deserve nothing less. Thank you.
Thank you. Ray Cummings?
Board of Education, Superintendent Adams, Council. I'm really glad to be here this evening. I thought I probably would have been dead before this happened. But I'm happy to say I'm still here, I'm still alive. Based on my background and my experience, I take very seriously casting my ballot for those that I choose to represent my interests. And I may not have supported every single candidate that is on the board now, but I want everyone to know I support the elected board. I've supported the elected board always. I was here for many, many years when we had an elected board, before we had a decade of a different kind of board, but a significant percentage of our employees know no other board. They don't know an elected board. I have people come to me and say, well, what will it be like? What's going to happen? We're going to keep educating these kids. That's exactly what's going to happen. And I'm very thankful for each and every one of you that have given your precious time out of your life in order to help this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the June 6, is there a motion to approve and adopt the July 9th, 2019 regular business meeting agenda?
I move that we approve and adopt the July 9th, 2019 regular business meeting agenda.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on this agenda? We'll vote.
Ms. D. Jones,
Yes.
Ms. S. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Lane,
Yes.
Ms. Miller,
Yes.
Dr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mrs. Val,
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodey Collins.
Yes.
The motion has passed.
Is there a motion to approve the June 6, 2019 minutes?
I move to approve the June 6, 2019 minutes.
I second.
Thank you. Any discussion or changes to these minutes?
I believe that there was, no, I'm sorry, that's it.
Okay, we can vote.
Ms. D. Jones,
Yes.
Ms. Susan Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Lane,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes?
I'm sorry, Ms. Miller,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Dr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mrs. Val,
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodey Collins.
Yes.
The motion passed.
Is there a motion to approve the June 11th, 2019 minutes?
I move to approve the June 11th, 2019 minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'm sorry, didn't hear the second.
Second.
Okay.
Any discussion or changes to these minutes? Okay, we can vote?
Ms. D. Jones? Yes. Ms. S. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Lane?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Dr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mrs. Bow?
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodey Collins?
Yes.
The motion has passed.
Is there a motion to approve the June 25th, 2019 work session minutes?
I'll move to approve the June 25th, 2019 work session minutes.
Second.
Any discussion or changes to these minutes? Okay, we can vote?
Ms. Donna Jones?
Yes.
Susan Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Lane?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Yes. Dr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mrs. Bow?
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodey Collins?
Yes.
The motion has passed.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is the superintendent's report, the 2019-2020 opening school preparation update.
First of all, good afternoon. Tonight I'd like to spotlight one of our key community partners before we start the presentation. 2 weeks ago, Boeing held its 3rd annual STEM fair. That's science, technology, engineering, the arts, and math for elementary students. The event held at Mellencrot was extremely well attended, and each child also went home with a STEM-related book and science kit. That same day, additionally, Boeing staff were about 4 miles away completing a service project at Shenandoah Elementary School, power washing the building and completing beautification projects. All told, Boeing dedicated more than 100 staff members in service to our students on this day. Their ongoing partnership is much appreciated, similar to partnerships that take place throughout the district. I want to highlight those before we start the 2019-20 opening school preparation update. At the request of the board, I'm providing you an update relative to the departments and how we are preparing ourselves for the beginning of the school year. The departments you see to your left, I won't read to you, but the departments are highlighted on the screen. The first one is finance. GOB budgets have been loaded, meaning that they are able to be utilized for purchasing. Title budget loaded within 48 hours of receiving principal spreadsheets, which gives principals the opportunity to order and also for extra serviceability as well. From a professional development perspective, we have 2 new systems, Business Plus and Finance procedure training that's taking place. Secretaries and book clerks will return on July the 24th, and principals will return on July at least the training will take place on the 24th and the 29th. The next item is student support services. Professional development is taking place in the area of suicide training, homicide risk assessment training, crisis training, and family court referrals. The social work department is working to make sure that takes place to all of our social workers and family community specialists. Virtual school is basically taking care of the letters and robocalls to parents, establishing registration that will start between July 29th and the 2nd, and registration packets for new and returning students who are enrolling in a virtual academy are taking place at this time as well. Quite frankly, that was the largest graduating class throughout the district, with almost 200 students who graduated in virtual school last school year. So that is a targeted audience that we are particularly interested in supporting. Master schedule set up for new schools in the Sellers for July 8th and through the 12th, and that's the program that we use. And health services, the medical director is in the process of making sure that orders are taking place for all of the medical medications that you see listed there, as well as EpiPens and Narcan order for our middle and high school students, and Benadryl to assist with emergencies that take place. On the next slide, we highlight the transportation for after-school students, the contracts that are taking place in our community schools, because contracts have to be done for those partners who work with us under $5,000. Our family community specialists are getting prepared for the call center that will open up in August, and we'll have 2 weeks of the call center that actually will take place in this particular room, where they will be answering phone calls from parents as relates to registration, transportation, and other issues. We also will organize a back-to-school fair. I'll provide to you tonight at the end of the meeting a calendar that lays out all of the activities that are taking place in July, so you could be prepared to attend as board members. And the students in transition are working on ordering uniforms, book bags, and supplies, and stocking the food pantry. The annual health fair that will take place at this location on August the 2nd, and also students update their forms regarding the shelters that they're in, the transportation vendors, and school personnel. On the transportation side, we are mailing transportation schedules that will start on July 15th to the 19th. Drivers are testing testing and doing runs on August the 7th. And the blackout dates for any kind of changes will be between August the 1st and August the 30th. Food and nutrition, I won't read through all of this with you, but preparing the principal letters that will go out, meeting with community partners. We're also ordering all the produce and milk, and the delivering of parent letters, as I've already indicated, monthly menus, as well as school tours where the staff is coming in to determine how the facilities are being accommodated. On the operations side, basically, I'm providing to you the square footage of all of the space that the custodial staff has been working on throughout the summer. The next slide lays out the custodial cleaning schedule in terms of what they do. They start at the top of the building and they clean the furniture, carpets, wood flooring, furniture is placed back in the classroom. Then they deal with the hallways and clean stairwells, and they also work to make sure that they'll repeat this process over again. The last areas that are cleaned and addressed are the cafeterias and the gymnasiums are the last areas. The next slide lays out the timeline. June 3rd to the 28th, you can see the kind of work that takes place. July 1st to the 2nd, the areas that are being taken care of in August the 5th through the 12th. We always come in 100%, meaning that buildings are prepared. There's some items on your agenda tonight that we're asking you to approve that will address painting and some asphalts, and those are time sensitive, so we will be asking that you approve those so we can continue the work that's taking place. On the academic side, it's mainly focused around making sure that all the curriculum material has been ordered, the textbooks and materials are in place, the common formative assessments. I know that one of the board members has a question that I'm addressing after the end of this meeting relative to what we're doing as it relates to that area. Elementary science curriculum has been rewritten, as well as secondary science materials have been purchased and ordered, functional lab spaces in all of our high schools, and central office ambassadors the first 3 days of schools go out and do a checklist in terms of all of these things being in place, and also looking at attendance, staffing, and other issues as well. Again, I'll provide you a checklist of that as well. Lastly, not lastly, but the next one is up, institution advancement. They are working with partners. I addressed the Boeing issue, but you can see other partners that we're working with. We also will be doing an opportunity for the board to go out as well with certain staff to announce the opening of school, to sit in the pulpit and give the community an idea of what school, the first day of school, and what we're focused on this year. That's the Back to School Expo is also taking place. I'll announce that a little bit later tonight in terms of the date. We are also looking to sign up some 400 to 600 volunteers. I talked about the staff of our school Sundays. My hope and belief is that every board member will participate by visiting a church the Sunday before school starts. We have a script for you such that you can give an announcement in terms of what's happening. We have targeted churches that we have traditionally gone through, and we'll be asking you to participate as well. We also have a new mentor program that will impact 10 schools, 3 elementary, 2 middle, and 5 high schools. The mentoring office is working to do that at this point in time, and we have identified schools that will be participating. The next group is human resources. Institution advancement continues in terms of all of the letters that are going out. Also the scheduling messages. I know a board member asked a question around what we're doing. We're also doing advertisement, radio calls, and robocalls that will be taking place, plus media outlets are also sending out information that we are giving to them prior to the first 2 weeks of school as well, such that we're encouraging attendance on the first day of school as we have traditionally done. The last item on the agenda, well, not last, I keep saying last, but it's human resources. We're partnered to provide orientation for some 300 new hires. Substitute teacher training is taking place as well. There'll be 5 days of teacher training that will take place. We also have 2 new systems, a higher tech system that will allow employees to determine issues around loan forgiveness and if the employee is working with the district and what kind of salary they have. We've had some problems getting that done timely, and so as employees work for us, we want to make sure that we could do employee verifications. And the last one is a new AppleTrack system such that we could do a better job of responding to our employees, tracking them, and communicating with them as well. The next slide, 1,400 total number of teaching applicants screened, 787 formal applicants have been screened, 484 phone interviews completed, 330 persons have panel interviews, 449 candidates selected for individual schools for the 2019-2020 school year. A question was asked by the board. At the last count, there were 90 teacher vacancies that we have right now. That was as of Friday. As of today, that number is 54. Because 56, I'm sorry, because 34 offers were made. We're still waiting for those offers to come back, but we expect the numbers to be by the end of the week around 50 vacancies that exist. That is a moving target because persons resign every single day, and we're hiring on a regular basis as well. The last slide is technology, and then followed by assessment. 12,000 iPads have been serviced with new apps. We've also added apps to the new iPads, some 4,000 iPads. We are setting up and communicating iPad training to new teachers. As a matter of fact, I think the training takes place tomorrow or Thursday, if I'm correct. Scheduling Microsoft Suite training for our new teachers, re-imaging all of our PropS computer labs, migrating cell phones to new platforms as some of that occurred today for the board members, develop assessment calendars for upcoming school year. That's calendar has been put in place and is on our website under the calendar, but we also have a hard copy that will be on the website as well. That will also be on the website specifically around assessment. Finalize reporting of all assessment platforms for the 18-19 school year, preparing for updated rosters for staff, and work with Renaissance Vendor, what is our vendor that focuses around STAR assessments and the MAT platform. Lastly, pupil accounting, finalizing the core data updates from the 18-19 school year. We are required to get some information by June 30, which we've done. Transferring to the new Tyler 360, which is a mobile-friendly application that allows the users to go online, parents especially to look at grades, to look at attendance, all of those kind of dynamics. We want to give you an opportunity to go through a workshop with that. I looked at it on yesterday. It's really a fantastic app that allows families to go online and find out homework assignments and all of those kinds of things. We're scheduling middle and high school students at this point in time, such as every student would know what their schedule is prior to the beginning of the school year, and finalized placement in the Magnet School Choice Program, reviewing wait lists to determine eligibility still at this late date as students are still taking gifted testing, and preparing for upgrades to the Magnet Choice software application. Those are the items that I have before you at this point in time. Obviously, it's a lot. The intent tonight was just to give the board a snippet, if you will, of what the departments have done. We can go deep into any kind of question that you might have, and staff is here in case I can't respond to the question, if you have any deep questions relative to those items. This is a cursory 1,000-foot view in terms of what's happening on a day-to-day basis over the last 3 months to prepare for the opening of school.
Are there questions for Dr. Adams?
Hi, Dr. Adams. On the fourth page, I was wondering the suicide, homicide, risk assessment training, crisis intervention, and family court referral, PD. Are resource officers going to be in that professional development?
No, they will not. They will have a separate PD. They have 3 to 5 days of separate PD, not necessarily in this particular space.
Okay.
That may be a recommendation for us to look at this point in time. I don't have the scope of exactly what they are doing in their training. It may be a component. I'll give you an update after this meeting to let you know exactly what the schedule looks like. But the intent right now, this is a student support service. They're not a part of that. This will be social workers, family community specialists, and counselors.
Thank you. And then for page 7 under facilities, it's a good breakdown of how much square footage we're looking at and the custodians that we have. My question is, do we know that number, that 26,000 per Custodian, is that high, low? How does that compare to maybe other districts or the
I'll have Mr.
expected
Casey
workload?
come, who is the expert in that area, and he can kind of give you a better idea. I am not sure, to be honest with you. So, Mr. Casey, how does this compare to what other districts doing or other national standard?
We're toward the lower end. We would like to get lower than that, but according to the Council of Great City Schools, we're probably more on the lower end, not at the high end of it. So we need more staff. We have a concern. We have about, how many vacancies? About 27 vacancies. The good economy has hurt us because, again, we're having trouble or concerns of getting staff to come in to fill those positions. So this is based on the staff that we have.
Thank you. And then for the central office ambassadors that are going to be helping out with the new books and curriculum, do we know are they going to every school? How many ambassadors do we have?
So we have,
what time frame are they spending at the schools?
So we have traditionally, and this is a continuation of what we've done over the last 10 to 11 years, is that the first 5 days, first three to 5 days of school, we have an ambassador assigned to every single school from central office. They will go there that morning. They will assist in terms of making sure that all of the materials are in place. If there are any outstanding vacancies, there's a list, a checklist of all of the things that they are responsible for, determining that's in place at the school, schedules for students and all of those kinds of things. And then we come back at 12 or 1 o'clock and we go over that list to determine what we need to provide based upon the deficiencies that might be in place at school. So they spend anywhere, Mr. Lang, from 3 to 5 days. What we've found over a period of time when I first started, they were there 5 to 7 days. We've cut that number down because we know what we need to have in buildings, and we have worked really hard to make sure that those things are in place. And we need less time because we're getting positive checklists to say that those things are in place.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, Dr. Adams.
How you doing, Ms.
I have
Jones?
a question regarding the SLPS call center.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'd like to know how we will track the questions or concerns that either the individuals or parents will be asking in order to be successful in those areas, please.
Mr. Brown, I'll let Mr. Brown come forward to give you an update in terms of how they do that.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Those calls are tracked individually, so there's a kind of a Microsoft list, Microsoft Excel list for each call. I think last year we had approximately 4,000 calls in a 10-day period, so we can kind of get you that list of questions or that they ask, but we would have to do that after the meeting, after the 10-day period.
Okay, so I guess I'm looking at process-wise, or when the calls come in, are you kind of checking a box to say, hey, this person called in and they asked about transportation specifically to this area? How is that being done? I want to know more about the process.
Yes, there's a list of departments, so we track each department and where those calls go. So you call in and you ask about transportation, we kind of just check the box. We don't do specific questions, but we
Okay.
check the box of where that call was transferred or how we answered that question.
Okay, thank you very much.
No problem.
I actually have a similar question. I don't
Come
know
back,
if you
Mr. Brown. Don't go
might
anywhere.
not want to sit down.
Okay.
Do we have numbers about resolutions for those calls? Because it sounds like some parents, for example, are calling in and not getting resolutions to some of the things that they're calling in to ask about. So is that something that we're also tracking?
We have a general response depending upon general questions, but very specific questions regarding specific students or specific issues around transportation especially, we are tracking those and looking to try to have a resolution. I want to be clear that in every single case there is not a resolution, however, but we do our best to make sure that there is a resolution. Sometimes people don't get the transportation schedule, or it goes to the wrong address, or they moved, and all of those kind of dynamics, but we do provide some details in terms of what we have tried to do to resolve the issue.
Thanks. My other question was also about messaging to the community. So I was thinking specifically about the health fair, and I see on mailings and messaging that it talks about scheduling messaging, advertising, social media, and robocalls to encourage attendance. I'm wondering if there are primary methods of social media or advertising so that we as a board can promote that through our own actions and so that we can get more community engagement.
I'll let Ms. Willis address that one.
Yes, we'd absolutely love to have that type of help. We will be promoting all of the major back-to-school efforts within a major mass mailing that's going to be going out to all families very shortly. It's pretty much in the mail right now. So we start with that, and then we follow up with all those other auxiliary social media platforms. We are doing things with Instagram. We're also doing advertising with regard to Facebook and and we're very, very much on Twitter, but the ads are coming over Facebook. So we have responded as some of the board members have reached out to us with their Twitter handles, and we can certainly continue to do that and have you back up our post and help us out with that.
Sure. So I'm thinking specifically about a lot of my students who are transient and might not get the mailings.
Right.
And so I'm just wondering if there's like a place that if I'm actually wondering this myself. Is there a place I can go where I can get all of the information that I want to about what's happening? Is it the district website? Is it a specific social media account?
Yes, again, that mailing that's going to go out, that's going to answer many, many questions for families all the way from transportation and the routes that they'll be taking to what they're going to be needing going forward at the start of school. But yes, we have mechanisms through the website, including Let's Talk. I think you're familiar with that. So Let's Talk is a great way to ask a specific question that will go to a department head and will be answered in a very short amount of time. So this is a very, very good system that we're going to be promoting. In addition, the district's app is downloadable and free. So we have a multi-channel approach prepared for the back-to-school process that's going to hit as many people as will need it, but also the English language learners. There will also be translating some information that will go out as well. They'll receive the same packets that everybody else receives, and I think we've got it pretty well covered, but we're certainly welcoming any ideas that you might have.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
I had one other question that was unrelated to that. It was about the virtual learning. I know it's sort of new-ish. I was wondering if we happen to have a plan for or like a timeline for getting advocacy results for our virtual school students.
When you say advocacy results?
Advocacy results, so like actual outcome results for students, both test scores, but also sort of like where they go after they complete this program.
You're talking about in terms of going to college or a career?
Or career, or sort of how are we judging the success of this program, and what's the plan for that?
I think that's an offline. I could give you an offline
Sure.
relative to that. Just like we do with any student graduating from high school, we try to track where those students go. As a matter of fact, the state, one of the MSIP points is tracking students in terms of where they go 6 months after they graduate. In terms of the grades, virtual school is just like any other classroom grade. Students take the course, they get grades, but in terms of tracking specifically graduating students, we try to do the same thing we do with any student who's graduating from high school. But I think your question is a little bit deeper than that, so I don't have a problem spending some time to try to respond a little bit closer to what you're asking for.
Thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Adams. If I could direct your attention to academic on page 10, a very quick question around common formative assessments. We all know that accreditation is a non-negotiable, and so I'm interested to know how are we going to use these assessments?
I'll let Dr. Knight respond to that question.
So good evening. If you notice, we indicated 2 to 4 weeks, and so that gives us a benchmark on how kids are doing to give us more of a projection on the actual performance in the spring, on the spring assessment. So if you notice, we have these formative assessments that are built in that are every 2 to 4 weeks. In the past, we didn't have that really scheduled. But we'll be able to use that to be able to determine the reteaching model that we have in place to actually go back and reteach based on those standards.
Okay. Okay, and just a quick follow-up question. Will student results determine how we develop professional development for teachers? Example, if students do poorly on a skill, does that identify a need for staff development as opposed to reteaching?
So we have those booster sessions that we will have after school and on Saturdays. And those booster sessions are directly tied to the standards.
Thank you.
Dr. Adams,
Yes, ma'am.
my question is directed towards safety in the beginning of school. And, you know, I'm a resident of Walnut Park. So safety is a real big concern to me as well as to many of the people here in the audience. A lot of our children are living in fear as well as their parents of that first day or getting out on the bus stop and what have you. And I want to know what the district is doing to try to collaborate with the police department or whomever or the neighborhood to make our students and parents feel safe in bringing their children to school, because right now I'm sure many of our students are coming traumatized, and I know you have the professional development for the teachers, but what about the students?
Ms. Jones, I know that the Colonel Taylor works closely with the St. Louis Police Department. If there's something specific around that area, we can actually ask for assistance in that area. The police work collaboratively with us, especially around the beginning of the school year. If there's a specific area, we could ask for additional resources. We have mobile officers out. But in terms of anything specific, overall, that we're doing anything different than what we did last year, I would say that answer is no. Without Ms. Colonel Taylor being here, I can't respond totally. But if there's a specific area that you're concerned about, we could deploy additional resources in that particular area.
I think the area that I'm concerned about is just when children are out at the bus stops. I rarely see the police department driving up and down the street early in the morning. I just don't see them, and I just feel really concerned for our children because people don't seem to have a lot of respect for our young people right now in this city. And I just really want to see a bigger effort, even if the churches or someone starts to collaborate with the school district to step it up, because I'm really just fearful as a parent and as someone that lives in a community for our children. It's just enough is enough.
So I will come back at the next meeting, at least before that point in time, to kind of get with Colonel Taylor to see what we could possibly do in terms of, I'm sorry, Misty.
Good afternoon. We do work close in conjunction with the police department. So we have one of our officers attends a meeting every Thursday with the police department. So information that's needed to take to them, we attend CompStat. So we relay that information to them. And what we do prior to school, we work in conjunction with Toyin Akinoli, and we visit the bus stops to ensure the safety of those stops prior and make any recommendations to her. But we do work in conjunction with the police department.
If I'm correct, Board Member Jones, what you're asking for is something very specific in terms of what we're doing differently around supporting at least the beginning of the school year in terms of support for kids as they wait at the bus stop. And so I'd like to come back to you with a response that's a little bit more specific to what you're really asking for, because while I think in a general sense what Mrs. Doban said is 100% correct, what you're asking for is something a little bit more specific to supporting neighborhoods that have a need to have more visibility in areas. And so I'd like to come back to you with a response to that, because I think it's much more specific than a general response.
It is.
No discount to what was said, but I think I hear something different that you're asking for.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Dr. Adams?
Thank you.
Next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? And also, I guess I should add, are there any items that you'd wish to take separately?
Nope, I move to approve the July 9th consent agenda.
Is there a second? Any questions, comments, any other statements on the consent agenda? Okay, we can vote.
Ms. D. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. S. Jones? Yes. Mr. Lane?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Dr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mrs. Bow?
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodey Collins?
Yes.
The motion has passed.
Great. Moving on to board member reports, I'll start down to my left. Donna, do you have a report?
No, I don't have my report at this time.
Natalie?
This, I guess, is more of a committee report than a board member report, but the onboarding committee met on June 20th. That is comprised of myself and Dr. Roberts. A bit of background on that is we formed this committee, I guess, when two of our former board members were still on, to make sure that new and oncoming board members have the resources they need to become board members so that they're caught up on background information and what they need moving forward. So it is still very much a trial and error process, and I hope it's working out for you too, newest members. But what we basically went over was we did some updates to the handbook that President Rhodey Collins had created, and we reviewed the process. We have sort of a timeline where we want board members to be in 30, 60, and 90 days in. So basically, I will be scheduling, or have reached out to our newest board members to schedule one-on-ones with them to find out where they're at, find out their feedback on the process, and how else we can help. So anybody have any questions? Or Dr. Roberts, did you have any follow-up?
I think you've been very clear on the purpose of the handbook and what we've done to date. It's still a work in progress. And I do open the committee up to other members of the board to join in the effort.
Anything else, Natalie?
That's all. Thank you.
Dr. Roberts?
Thank you. Just very briefly, I had the opportunity to attend the University City Board meeting, and I was quite impressed with their data presentation. It was visually pleasing to the non-educator, and I'm hope that we can partner around an effort where it relates to putting together data information that parents are very comfortable with and comfortable enough with that they can ask questions. And so I was excited about that part of the U-City board meeting. I also want to thank our board secretary for doing such an outstanding job in my training as I transition into this role. And so if you stand and be recognized as she stepped out. Yes, Ms. Lewis, raise your hand. And finally, I did share this with President Rhodey Collins, that the board has been invited to speak before the Organization for Black Struggle. That is on July the 20th at 10 a.m.
Do you have a location?
It's at their Rowan facility, their Rowan building, and so I will get the exact address to you.
Tracy?
Yeah, so I was invited to attend a conference for school board leaders in Washington, D.C. The conference included former St. Louis public school board members and one of the current members from the University City School Board. The primary focus of the conference was equity in schools, whether it's through finances or communication. Strong focus on community engagement and ensuring that we represent our constituents. We were actually also able to speak with former Secretary of Education John King and discussed a shift from the idea of socio-emotional learning to socio-emotional and academic development, implying that socio-emotional aspects of learning should be not just a box that we check, but should be integrated in everything that we give to students. And so that was an extremely powerful presentation. I felt lucky to be there. And then myself and some of the board members were able to attend. There's a new Board of Aldermen Standing Committee on Education and Youth Matters. And I'm excited to work with the Board of Aldermen here in the city to make sure that we're collaborating to do what we can for the students together. That's all.
So, no, that's fine. So the full, so this counts as the July consent agenda. My apologies. Susan, do you have anything?
None at this time.
Adam.
Piggybacking off what Tracy reported, a bunch of us had the opportunity to go to the Board of Aldermen Standing Committee on Education and Youth Development, is it? Youth Matters. And my urge to that committee, and I'll sum off of what Ms. Susan Turk said earlier, we are elected officials and we do represent you in the 300,000 or I guess 100,000 voters in the city of St. Louis. But also your aldermen are elected too, and they represent you as well. Education and neighborhood development, which is within the locus of control for our aldermen, is very important. My charge to them was to make sure that they took a lens of equity, especially racial equity, when it comes to a lot of decisions that they make when they develop their neighborhoods, when they vote on different bills and areas of development for all of the city. And I would encourage all of you to take that home too, because they represent the neighborhoods that you live in. But encouraging you as constituents, as voters, to urge your aldermen to do what they need to do, especially as it pertains to education and neighborhood development, so that our students have schools that they can go to and neighborhoods that they want to live in and families that want to live with other families in those neighborhoods. That's all.
Okay, thank you. So we have a slight correction to make. As you know, we're working very hard at all of this. So as the motion was made for the consent agenda, we essentially also approved August. So the what we need to do here is withdraw the original motion and amend it to list the actual items that we are approving. So no major errors, we just need to amend that motion. So Tracy, would you please withdraw and then reword?
Yes, I withdraw my motion to approve the July consent agenda items and move that we approve the consent agenda items number 7-9-19-1 through.
Excuse me, pardon me. We need to withdraw first.
Okay.
We need to withdraw, we need a motion and a second to withdraw first.
Okay, I move that we withdraw the movement to approve the July minutes.
Is there a second?
Okay, who's second?
Natalie, second. Okay, we can vote on that withdrawal then?
Okay, so that has been withdrawn. Ms. Donna Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Susan Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Lane?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Dr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mrs. Val?
Yes.
Mrs. Dorothy Rowley Collins?
Yes.
Okay, that has been withdrawn and that has passed.
Okay. New motion. I move that we approve the consent agenda items from numbers 0709-1901 through 0709-1907.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I'm sorry, didn't.
The second was Natalie, again.
Thank you.
So for formality purposes, are there any questions on these? Okay, we can vote.
Mrs. Donna Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Susan Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Lane?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Dr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mrs. Fowl?
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodey Collins?
Yes.
The motion has passed.
Great. I do have a brief board president report. So as you know, there are many committees of the board and of the district that we will be putting representatives on. We also are members of many professional organizations that we will be putting representatives through those memberships as well. So there will be many appointments coming over the next several months. The appointment I'd like to make tonight is to the CPN board, and our appointee for that will be Susan Jones. She is going to be representing us beginning with the July meeting, which is on July 26th. Our board retreat, as you know, is this Saturday. It will be held here in the room upstairs, the SLU room 27. It begins at 9 is when our work starts. Breakfast, light breakfast, continental breakfast beforehand at 8:30. And we are scheduled to go until 4. I believe you've all received a draft of that agenda from Ms. Phyllis Sparks. And the final thing that I have for you is conference registration. The final deadline is not until September, but rooms do book up quickly. So if you know now that you want to attend that annual conference, please let me know by tomorrow, let's say noon, so I can get those to Ms. Lewis, so those of you who are committed can have good choices in lodging. And then again, like I put in the email, we'll be doing another round of registrations later for those of you that are still looking at your schedules. That is all that I have.
A couple of things.
Oh, yeah, Dr. Adams?
Just a couple of lasting announcements for me. Central office is closed on Friday during the month of July. Staff is doing 10-hour days, Monday through Thursday, and so Friday the office is closed. The Back to School Festival for ESOL students will be August the 3rd at Nahia Chapman. On Saturday, August the 10th, SLPS is again partnering with the Urban League to present a back-to-school expo for the community. It is from 10 until 5 at the American Center, as it's been the last 3 years. Most importantly, the first day of school for all students is Tuesday, August the 13th. I think that's the day that the board meets as well, but Tuesday, August the 13th. I also have a calendar for the board. I'd like to pass it out at this point in time, and I'll address it a little bit at the retreat on Saturday. There's one important piece I'd like to kind of get before the board right now, only to the extent that your calendars could address them. Everything in gold are things that the board is invited to. Obviously, tonight is the board meeting, Saturday is the board retreat, but we have back to school for principals on the 18th. I would love to have the board there to be introduced at that point in time. We have back to school for teachers as well on the 31st. We'd love to have the board there and for Shine High School to be introduced. Obviously, the president of the board is the spokesman for the board, but any other members, and as well as the president, could welcome the new teachers and also welcome principals, such that principals and teachers could get some perspective in terms of who the board is. If you have some time to carve out, if you could let me know, we'll make sure we have a way to introduce you and to recognize you appropriately. I'm not saying you can't come to these other things, but those are the things that we are recommending that you come to be addressed at that point in time. My intent is to give you a calendar like this every month, so you'll know the activities that are taking place in detail, and if you want to be invited or want to attend, you notify us and myself, and I can obviously make sure that it happens. Lastly, for me tonight, in recognition of this being the first board meeting for the elected board, or for the board, and no longer call it the elected board, the board, we have punch, beverages, and a cake to recognize the board to our right after the meeting. So anybody who wants to partake in cake and punch, we want to ask you to remain to celebrate with the elected board tonight.
All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Ms. D. Jones? Yes. Ms. Susan Jones? Yes. Mr. Lane?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Dr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mrs. Fowl?
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodey Collins?
Yes.
We are adjourned.
Sorry, I didn't catch it.
What is it?